look good.
Hello. Um, Welcome to this week's Foundry Educational Foundation edition of Facebook Live. My name is Kathy Hayrynen, and I'm coming to you live from Livonia, Michigan, where I am the Vice President of Research and Development of Applied Process, which is a commercial heat treating group that specializes in salt bath quenching. I'm going to share my thoughts with you today about grad school. But before I get started, a little bit more about myself. I am an FEF alum from Michigan Technological University, where I received a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in metallurgical engineering, all the same category. I am a member of the Foundry Educational Foundation Board of Directors, where I serve as the key contact for Michigan Tech. I am also a past president of FEF. So when people ask me, why did you go to grad school? I really think back to when I was a bachelor's student. And I was a co-op student for General Motors at their Saginaw Gray Iron plant. So by the time I was getting ready to graduate, I had had a pretty good exposure to being in industry. And I got to say that even though I had a really great preparation in terms of fundamental knowledge of metallurgy from Michigan Tech, there was just something about where I didn't feel like I was ready to go out into industry. So going to grad school and working on a master's degree allowed me to develop project management skill sets. It also allowed me to hone my oral and written communication skill sets. Now, these are a really important package for you because, having a great fundamental knowledge base is one of the keys to success in your career. But you have to know how to use that set of knowledge. And working on a master's degree allowed me to build that self-confidence and know that I could use all those tools in my toolbox for a successful career path. Now, it's interesting now that I'm a vice president, and in the position that I have, I hire engineers. And so my research team has several engineers that report to me, and every one of the engineers on my direct reports on the research team, they all have master's degrees. And that really is by design because I'm managing a discipline where we have a lot of development projects that are open, and I need people who can come in and take that project and manage it from start to completion, and then provide some type of reporting structure. Sometimes it's a technical presentation, that's an oral presentation. Often it's a written communication. And I sincerely believe that people who have master's degrees really have that skill set honed by the time they complete their master's program. And then they're ready to run much more effectively and much quicker than somebody who comes in with a bachelor's degree. Now, a PhD is a little different. PhD is, I guess, for lack of better description, is kind of like a master's degree on steroids. So now you're going to get a problem that you have to solve, but you have to really go into it at a much deeper level. So you're really honing your problem-solving skills. Now, you will improve your problem-solving skill set as well on a master's program, but you typically don't go into the depth that you do with a PhD, because a PhD, you're kind of taking that engineering discipline where you take a complex problem or an unknown and you break it down into stages, and then you have to solve each stage, but you have to get down to the fundamentals, to the fundamental science, or maybe you're learning something about fundamental science that is unknown. You're typically not going to go to that depth on a master's program. On a PhD, you're also going to be much more likely to be interdisciplinary, so you have to consider other sciences or other disciplines to help you solve your problems that you're trying to figure out. You often have supervising of a team. You might have other master's students reporting to you, and again, you're going to improve your communication skill sets. Now, I often get asked, should I get a PhD? Because somebody has told me, getting a PhD doesn't make sense if you're going into industry. Getting a master's degree is more useful. Well, some of that depends upon the size of the company that you're going to work for or what you really want to do. But I have to say this, I think PhDs get a bad reputation sometimes because really a PhD, you shouldn't focus so much on the fact that they're getting a PhD because we're not all conehead Sheldons, okay? What we are is we're people who know how to take a complex problem, break it down into simple bites, and solve it. And those are really types of people who I think any company would be happy to have. Now, another thing where people get kind of focused on grad school is this going to bring me a lot of instant money? Well, I don't know that I'm the right person to talk to you about how much this is going to net you in terms of money. Again, that's going to depend upon where you go and what industry you enter. But in general, a master's degree student does start at a higher level than a bachelor's degree, and then a PhD will further differentiate you. But my advice would be, if you're looking for project management skill sets, if you're looking for better development of your problem solving skill sets, if you want to be better at oral and written communication, then you really should think about grad school. Don't sweat whether or not you're going to get a PhD. Leave that decision to something later. For me, I started off in a master's program, and when I started off in a master's program, man, I was going to be out the door immediately after that. But what I found out was that as I started working, the research that I was doing was very, very interesting, and along came a project that allowed me to continue a quest on an unknown. And that's kind of how I ended up with a PhD. It wasn't necessarily because I wanted to get a PhD. It was because there was some really fascinating research for me to get involved with. Ultimately do what makes you happy, because in the end, if you're happy, the compensation will come. So if there are any questions out there, send me a comment. We can entertain them. But I hope I've given you a few things to think about when it comes to grad school, because it should be a viable option that everybody should be considering. Thank you for your time today.